Beijing's defense minister is defending the actions of a Chinese warship over the weekend that veered across the bow of an American destroyer in the Taiwan Strait. NBC News correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has more.
A close encounter in the Taiwan Strait. The Defense Department releasing this video that it says shows a Chinese warship almost running into an American destroyer on Saturday, coming within 150 yards of it, forcing the ship to slow down to avoid a collision. The Navy ship had been conducting a joint military exercise with a Canadian frigate between Taiwan and mainland China. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin calling on China's leaders to, quote, rein in that kind of conduct.
Accidents can happen that could cause things to spiral out of control.
China's defense minister then blaming American provocations by even being in the area. Telling the U.S. to, quote, mind your own business and take good care of your own people, Navy vessels and jets. All of it prompting a warning from the U.S.
We do not seek conflict or confrontation, but we will not flinch in the face of bullying or coercion.
These close calls are happening more often, the latest last week over the South China Sea, when a Chinese fighter jet flew across the nose of an American surveillance plane in a maneuver the U.S. called aggressive. Earlier this year, NBC News was on board a U.S. Navy aircraft intercepted by a Chinese jet that flew 500 feet off the wing for over an hour. China saying it will continue to take necessary measures to protect sovereignty and security.
NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer with that report. Let's bring in a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Democratic Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland. Senator, a lot of cross currents here, but what do you make of the China moves that it seems so provocative? So the warship coming ever so close and the American plane having to ride in the wake of China's.
Well, Mika, it's good to be with you. The freedom of the sea is critically important for commerce. What China is doing is against international law. We have a responsibility to make sure we keep these channels open to international commerce. And I think what the Secretary of Defense said is absolutely accurate. China has to recognize that these provocative actions can spin out of control. So it's very dangerous, but we have to maintain the freedom of commerce in the seas. So the China seas have always been a little controversial with China, but we must maintain the freedom there.
Part of figuring out strategy is to try and understand what the strategy is of the other side. And in this case, in China, what do you think they're doing?
China is trying to establish itself as a power in the entire China Sea region. It's not just the U.S. interest. There's so many other countries that are compromised by what China is trying to do, including Vietnam, including Japan, including South Korea. So we need to work with the freedom of the seas issues and make it clear that we are not going to back down from our ability to conduct international commerce and for our national defense security reasons. So we've got to be very clear. We've got to stand up to China's bullyingness. We cannot allow them to get away with this type of intimidation. We see it not just in the seas, we see it in the air as well. But we have to recognize that China is becoming more belligerent and more of a military threat in the region.
So, Senator, the president is hosting the prime minister of Denmark and Great Britain this week. Ukraine, of course, and NATO's response to Russia's invasion will be top of mind. Reports this morning that Russia is claiming they've repelled a significant, what they say is significant Ukrainian incursion. We all know to take the Kremlin's word with a grain of salt. But tell us, first of all, what you may have heard about what's been happening there and just sort of your assessment as to where this conflict stands and what Ukraine might need to accomplish during this counteroffensive.
We're at a critical moment on the counteroffensive. It is absolutely essential that Ukraine make progress, and we have to give them the military equipment they need in order to have the best chance for success. It puts them in a much stronger position to hopefully figure out a way that we can end the open conflict and get Russia out of Ukraine. So this is a critically important moment. You can't, as you said, trust anything that comes out of the Kremlin as far as accuracy is concerned. The truth is, though, that Ukraine's doing very well. The international support is very strong, and we are prepared to continue to help. So we're optimistic that we will make progress during this counteroffensive, and there will be an opportunity, we hope, for an off-ramp so that Russia can remove its troops from Ukraine.
Senator, there's a new report out in London from the Royal United Services Institute indicating the ways in which the Russian military has actually made corrections to some of the missteps it made early on, that they're better at using their infantry, they're better now at pulling out Ukrainian positions. I mean, there is always some tendency for optimism bias, I think, in the West when it comes to Ukraine's chances. But how much are you hearing about the degree to which Russia has improved its military tactics recently ahead of this now, I guess, summer offensive?
Well, we know Russia has a major military capability. We know that. But think back to February of last year. No one would have predicted that Ukraine would be in existence today, let alone where they are on the battlefield. So Ukraine has been motivated, they've been effective, and they're continuing to be effective in holding back the Russian aggression. This is Russia's war of aggression, and Ukraine has defended its sovereignty with extreme effectiveness. So it may take longer. We don't know how long it's going to take, but Ukraine's going to maintain its sovereignty. Ukraine's going to win this war.
Senator, two-part. One is the concern domestically about we're spending a lot of money with Ukraine. Could that money be spent here in some of the things that are on the chopping block, so to speak? How do we deal with that going into a political year, both congressional, Senate races and the presidential race? And secondly, what can you tell us about the United States engagement in dealing with the conflict in Sudan? I'm concerned we're not hearing a lot about that. I visited Sudan a few years ago, and it's crazy what's going on there.
Reverend, Ukraine is the front line for democracy. The investments we're making with the Ukrainians is for our own national security defense. We know that Russia would not stop with Ukraine. We know that. They would continue to the Baltic countries. They would continue beyond that. It threatens our national security. So this is an investment. And it's one in which we think is worth the price we're paying in order to preserve democracy, not just in Europe, but here in the United States. Sudan's a tragic situation with both of the warring factors taking irresponsible action in regard to civilian losses. It's a tragedy. We hope that the negotiations for a ceasefire will work. We have our doubts. The United States needs to be engaged in getting the parties to come to the table and negotiate. So we are active in Sudan, but as a facilitator, and we will continue to do that.
Democratic Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, thank you very much for coming on this morning. We appreciate it. And we also understand that you have announced your retirement. So we wish you well, sir.
I've announced I'm not running for re-election, not my retirement. I'll still be here.
I like that. Okay, but not running for re-election. All right, up next.